Hi Mum, you do everything for everyone else. Let me help you make your life easier. Quick, short information to make you empowered and remind you why you are so important. Because if you don't know what's on the menu, how can you choose what's right for you? Hi, I'm Alina, Director of my private practice Supportive Therapy, an everyday Aussie mum trying not to lose my biscuits at my kids. As a mental health professional, I'm here to share my secrets so no other mother feels alone or powerless. Knowledge is power, and I want you to be powerful. Think of it like I'm your mindset coach through all of this. Everything is backed by science and psychology. I believe in you, and I want you to be the best version of yourself. To be happy and feel in control, you need to be mentally strong. Hi everyone, welcome back to Mentally Strong Mum. So I'm Alina, your go-to therapist, mindset coach, as well as fellow everyday Aussie mum. Just trying not to lose me biscuits at me kids, right? I don't know why I did that accent. It's raining here. We've all been inside for a couple of days. The rain's not looking to stop anytime soon. So sometimes I go a little cuckoo, all right? And I think this episode's I'm going to be a little bit extra. And so we're also going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is intimacy and connection relationships. Not so much into sex, we can do a whole another sex one later on, but it's about the connection and the basics and getting couples to be able to get back on the same page, understand the differences in biology. And when I talk about this, a lot of my couples that I work with, especially if they are not same sex, if you married or have chosen the opposite gender, understanding that the opposite gender has wired differently, thinks differently, and in terms of evolution is different as well. So we need to be able to do things to be able to get on the same page so that we both feel safe, we both feel connected, we're both happy with the intimacy, and we can both support each other to have a healthy, happy relationship that's also exciting and sensual, and it's playful. There's also this little flirtatious energy that I'm able to give to my partner because I feel safe, as opposed to feeling disempowered or I've got this flirtatious energy but I can't give it to him, which is that feminine as well. And feminine aligns with the biology of estrogen and progesterone, right? So this episode essentially is also a continuation of last week's chat on dating in a divided world and how difficult it can be, how men are bombarded by social media, sometimes by right-wing extremist views or misogynistic views, and it's been proven. I think they've worked it out to be 23 minutes if the algorithm figures out you're a man, that it will, within 23 minutes, it will then push this kind of Andrew Tate misogynistic right-wing, either political, and it's very interesting, especially for our young men and sometimes for our husbands. And then it can cause that paranoia, the divide, and then, well, why aren't you serving me? And you're like, well, we're a partnership. Why can't we work together as a team? No one's better than each other. It doesn't matter about gender, but if I've chosen you as a partner or I want a healthy relationship, it needs to be healthy, and healthy means that both people get to have a say. It's not dominated by one person or someone owes one person, right? So if you didn't hear that episode, go have a listen to it. But otherwise, we're going to have a look into what intimacy really is, into the differences between men and women, and what it actually makes and takes us for us to feel safe, connected and seen. And even with sex, it doesn't automatically mean that the other person has to orgasm. That's not the goal of sex and intimacy. It's connection and playful and pleasure and joy and feeling safe and exploring, right? And sometimes, especially as women, if we've received negative messages growing up that we don't know our bodies, we don't know what we like, we don't know how to ask for it. Sometimes we have a partner who's also in the same boat, who doesn't know a woman's body or how to be receptive to curiosity, and everything just feels like deja vu. So it's coming into ourselves and challenging what sometimes we think about sex and what we actually want about intimacy. So if you're even a mum supporting a teenager navigating intimacy, or even a single mum trying to date, or even trying to spice everything up within your own relationship now, so this episode is definitely for you. It's just going to be a little quickie, right? But it's got all the information to the starting point for these conversations. So intimacy and why it's not just the physical act of sex. So when we use the word intimacy, it's about feeling emotionally safe to be seen and to be understood. That the intimate connection of the flirtatious energy or a cuddle, or even intimacy emotionally to talk about what we think or our fears or our dreams or desires, right? It's about vulnerability, trusting the other person and softening so that the other person is your safe person. And sometimes if you're into kink, we know it's not about safe, right? But that's also safe to be able to do that, or to play like that, or to have that kind of bondage, or whatever it is. It's about safety and intimacy and vulnerability with the other person to do that. So, excuse me. So for women, generally emotional intimacy comes before physical intimacy. And for men, physical intimacy is often the gateway to emotional connection, right? So I always love Billy Connolly, and that's what he used to have all of these stand-up comedic about how the differences is. And it's completely true a lot of the time. With my own clients, I use the analogy of a woman's castle. So a woman's body is essentially a castle, and you can't gain access to the castle unless I know you're not going to ruin the castle or hurt me in any way or break anything or take advantage of the castle or steal anything, right? So for you to be able to gain entry into the castle, the woman needs to be able to know that everything's okay, I'm safe, I'm valued, and it's mutually beneficial. So both parties benefit, right? And then it's essentially putting down the bridge across the moat to let someone in. Because if a woman has sex and intimacy without her actually wanting to, it affects women on a cellular level, and that's trauma. When someone just comes into the castle because they feel they own it, or they bought the land for it, or my possessions are in there, or you owe me, so I'm coming in whether you like it or not. Sometimes it's almost like, well, I feel obliged, I feel guilty. If I don't let him into the castle, then there's going to be some kind of consequence, whether that be real or whether it be perceived. And the consequence can be like they're going to be passive aggressive, or they're going to be emotionally distant, or they're going to be completely avoidant, or right? So it's just easier to let them in the castle, because at least if I do that, then it'll be a better home environment. That builds up over time, and then no wonder eventually in the end you're doing everything in your power to close everything to do with the castle. I don't want anything to do with it. Do you know what I mean? We think in pictures, so if I can say it in a way that's visually you can understand, then that's the point, right? But for men need physical intimacy to be able to have that emotional connection, to be open to it. And so it's almost the complete opposite, where the woman needs to feel safe with the person that wants to come into the castle, but the man needs to be able to come into the castle to know what's happening, to feel connected, to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel validated, to feel that he is desirable, to feel that I'm still a priority, like you actually still love me. Do you know? So even though sometimes men don't have the words, the tools, or the ability to articulate it, it comes up all the time in therapy, right? So men being able to actually be in the woman's body is a very special, emotional, come to church kind of situation, where they should be feeling gratitude and appreciation for, as opposed to feeling, well, it's your duty. Technically, we're married, so this is what has to happen. That's incorrect. That causes trauma. Okay? So causes trauma, causes resentment, causes isolation. It's a whole lot of shame. There is then a power imbalance. There is then obligation. There is then consequences. And that's not healthy. Okay. So being able to challenge all of this, to be able to, if someone feels safe and secure in their relationship, to be able to connect. And then if I feel safe, I can explore. And then if I feel safe, I can then initiate, right? So this is what it all comes about, right? So if we can understand the science about evolutionary psychology and biology, right? So back in the hunter-gatherer days, women needed emotional security to ensure the survival for themselves and their babies. And if you think about the purpose of life for cave people back in the day, it was about procreation, to have the children, right? So a lot of our nervous system evolves to prioritize connection, safety, and emotional attunement. So you're tuning into the other person and what's going on. So there's all those experiments where we mirror each other, and that's an unconscious evolutionary thing. So if you stand there and you do these ones, the other person's eventually going to do this. And then if you kind of look up, then the other person will do it too. And that's how we're mammals, we need that connection, right? So men, biology, evolution, are wired for protection and reproduction, developed an urgency for physical connection as a sign of bonding. So a physical connection as a sign of bonding. So even though we're in a modern day and age, we're still wired because of our evolutionary psychology, and we're also dominated by hormones. So men, testosterone, fuels sexual desire. And so sometimes even if I have a session with a man and he's experiencing symptoms of depression and low libido, he can't get up in the morning, one of the first things I'll get him to do is maybe go take a blood test and have a look at the levels of testosterone in your body. And more often than not, they have low testosterone, and that's associated with all of that kind of stuff, right? Same with women, understanding, but we are dominated by estrogen and progesterone, and how the testosterone in our body as well, feeling safe and secure to increase our libido, increase our safety. But even if your libido is like off tap, if you still don't feel safe with the other person, unless it's like a BDSM kind of whatever. Each to their own. Obviously, I don't judge. I'm curious. I love all of it, and I love talking about it and hearing people's stories and what they go through, right? So also oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone, the bonding hormone. So this floods a woman's system after trust and connection. So when I feel like you understand me and I trust you and there's a connection, a woman's system biology will be flooded with oxytocin, and then that will want to be able to be open for bonding and intimacy and connection, right? So if a woman doesn't feel emotionally safe, her body, not her conscious mind, her body will literally won't let her relax enough to be present or want or enjoy physical intimacy, okay? So have you ever heard of Choreplay? Essentially, Choreplay is things that you can do for the other person that shows that you understand, that you're helping out, that you're part of the team. And that then is the ultimate foreplay, because I feel connected, I feel seen, I feel like we're a partnership in this family, and how special that is. And then that oxytocin comes, and then I'm able to intimacy, right? So if a man feels emotionally disconnected, right, he might actually then, because of his biology, seek sex as a way to find closeness, okay? Sometimes that can often backfire if emotional needs aren't being met first. And sometimes if a man does this, but he's doing it because of his biology, he doesn't understand what his needs are. So if he's seeking sex and then demanding it and asking for it, but he doesn't understand why he's really looking for it. If he could figure that out and then articulate, listen, I want to find closeness with you. I feel disconnected lately, and that's the way. I don't want to talk about stuff. I don't have the ability to do that. I want to do it physically. All right. And that's the difference, to be able to have these conversations, be more self-aware, look at things objectively from the bigger perspective to see what's actually happening in our relationships and what are our cycles. Do we feel safe to explore all of this and talk about all of this? Okay. So what women need to feel safe. So most women just don't want their backs rubbed for 30 seconds and then they expected to flip the switch to be able, all right, no, right? Especially a mum with our mental load, everything that we're carrying, all of our decision fatigue. Sometimes we're feeling that tit for tat, I'm doing all of this and you're not doing anything. And then she's dysregulated and she can't sit down, she can't relax, she can't do everything, right? Women need to be seen, respected, and then emotionally held, all right? So for a lot of people hearing that, you're like, man, that's a lot of work. But it's not really. We're in a partnership. When you have a bad day, when a lot's happening for you, I want to be able to be there for you to say, did you have a good day? Well, what happened? Talk to me about it. Is there anything I can do to support you? It's reciprocal. We're in a partnership. It's a yin and yang. We both have our strengths and we both have our weaknesses. But understanding if your partner is female, females need to be seen, respected, and emotionally held, right? So emotional safety looks like who checks in and genuinely listens. Being met with curiosity as opposed to criticism and shut down. Well, you should have done that. You should know better not to, right? Feeling like my needs matter. I just need a bit of help with the housework. Well, I work too, so I'm not, right? Not being pressured. One of these common things that we hear is, well, if you're not going to give it to me, I can't get it from anyone else. So, what's up? Okay. All right. No, right? Also, the ability to say, not today, or I am not emotionally available without feeling fear or guilt of a negative consequence or a negative punishment, whether it be real or perceived. They're going to be huffy, they're going to make me feel bad, they're going to sulk, right? They're going to rebel, whatever that is, right? Or that often being told that I'm too emotional, or I'm withholding, or I'm using it as a weapon, whatever that is, right? Women shouldn't be using it as a weapon either to manipulate. I'm talking about a really healthy, mutually beneficial relationship from both ends. Okay, so from both ends, the masculine and feminine, male and female, both need to feel safe, both need to be on the same page, and no one's taking advantage of the other person. Doesn't matter the gender, right? So if someone can't be kind and emotionally safe, then why would you want to give them the most vulnerable physical self? Why would you let them in the kingdom? Why would you let them in the castle? They'll ruin everything, right? So sometimes we need to understand as well, women, what we're doing to sometimes potentially put up barriers for our men. So what our men need, we've just spoken about what our women need. What do men need and sometimes what they're missing, right? So let's talk about the blokes. So many men do want that connection, but if they've been raised in a culture, then it doesn't give them the tools to be able to give them what they need or articulate it, right? So a lot of the time, sometimes if they're just craving sex, it might not just be the sex, it might just be the emotional connection from the other person. And so that's really difficult as well. And especially if monkey see, monkey do, if they're repeating patterns and cycles from other men around them, that's their normalized, and how then they're repeating those cycles as well. So especially if you think about men and society, and if you're of a certain age, then your man's of a certain age, which means that when they were raised, it was a different generation. Don't be weak. Just be the provider. Real men don't talk about feelings. Harden up. You know, all that other kind of stuff. So those messages have taught men to suppress everything, to shove everything down. We don't talk about it. Is that an emotion? I don't know. And there was this really funny comedy that was out. Obviously, I love comedy. It was a stand-up, and they're like, back in the day, dads only ever had two emotions. It was either happy or it was angry. That was it. It was literally black and white, two emotions, and that's all they had. Because growing up, that's all they were allowed to have. And if you weren't happy, any other emotion was bubbling up under the surface to the point where it then became anger, right? That's just dads. Stay awake. You know what I mean? So understanding we all need to evolve together. We want this growth mindset. And if we want to be in a really long-term, healthy relationship that invites intimacy and sex and exploration and fun, or kink, or BDSM, or freak's the new thing out there, right? Understanding things like edging. Can we play with that? Maybe a traffic light game. All of this other kind of stuff. So we want to be able to feel safe with all genders and understand with empathy and curiosity from the other person what's going on for them as well. So understanding about men sometimes that they land in relationships wondering why she doesn't just want intimacy, but they're missing the foundation that emotional safety for her is physical openness, right? Essentially, if you're nice to her all day, she's going to be nice to you, right? And how can we almost heal everything that's happened to us so we can be in a place so the person... So what's that saying? You hurt the person closest to you? We're not doing that anymore, because if you are having a hard time but you're nice to everyone else, but you're hurting the closest person to you because you're lashing out to them, that's not cool. You should be protecting each other because you're the closest people to each other, and then you can hurt everyone else, but you protect your family and you protect your peace and you protect your relationship at all costs. Okay? So especially understanding for men, if they're not familiar with this, or how to be able to normalize this. There's a couple of different men's voices out there who's helping to normalize and explore that, and especially if men aren't generally volunteering for therapy, how can they do this in the background? And to then overcompensate from the social media stuff we talked about last week, right? There's a guy called the Naked Professor, Ben Bidwell. He speaks to men about vulnerability and emotional growth. There's also a man called Brian Reeves. So he's a former US Air Force captain, turned into a relationship coach, focusing on deep conscious connections, right? There's also this guy... I think he's from New Zealand. I was going to say Kiwi, and then I realised, well, I'm not allowed to say that, so I apologise for that. The Primal Father. So he has wisdom on masculinity, intimacy, and leading with presence instead of control. And if you have a look at his Instagram page, it's very interesting as well, because even though he can be really masculine, he understands, according to your biology, how to make it feel safe for your partner, right? And then how we can normalize all of this so that men can have their voices and women can have theirs, okay? So for the women who don't feel seen, if you're with someone who constantly makes you feel like you're the problem for needing connection, or you're too emotional, or you're too much, I wonder why they're with a woman in the first place, right? Because this is normal for us. But for women, you are not broken. You are not asking for too much. You are asking for what every human being deserves. And that's kindness, being present, and that emotional connection. So therefore, you can then be vulnerable. Trying to find a life partner, the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, or whatever it is, even if it's not a life partner, even if it's a right now partner, we still all deserve safety and connection, okay? So if this is for you or a friend, Obviously, you can talk to your teenage kids about intimacy beyond sex and what this actually looks like. Using language like emotional safety and respect. This also comes down to boundaries, right? If you're dating again, don't ignore the red flags just to avoid being alone. And also understanding to prioritize connection with yourself first. Okay? So my course is going to be coming out soon. It's called Mentally Strong Mums. There's a wait list to let you know when it comes out. And there's a whole section on relationships. Because it's Mentally Strong Mums, it's for mums on how to connect and how to move forward, but enjoying sex and wanting it. And if you're not, there's a reason for that. So we've got to be able to figure that out as well. Okay, so mum, you deserve real intimacy, emotional, physically, spiritually, right? We are humans. Humans are built for pleasure. And if you're not having pleasure, and pleasure is not just sex and who orgasms. It's playful, it's silly, it's the connection. It's all the stuff wrapped up in a bow, okay? And it's not your job to make the other person orgasm, and it's not their job to make you orgasm either, right? So it's also challenging if I feel like it's too much pressure or I'm letting her down or whatever that is. It's about fun. Your children deserve to grow up seeing what healthy love looks like when it's safe, mutual, and then grounded. And we can also talk about this stuff, and then we can have a kiss without leading to sex, because it's just a kiss, it's just intimacy, right? So we can't control other people's readiness, but we can control our own worth, educate ourselves, and stay anchored in our own truth. And there's also this saying that I've got in my office, and I will not give up on myself. And I give myself permission to grow even if the people around me are not ready yet, okay? So thank you so much for all of this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too confronting. And if it was, wait till my other episode. It'll be pretty graphic, right? And especially with all of my mentally strong mums. And out soon, I'll let you know I'm having a sex and intimacy book, and games we can play and what the other person needs. So that'll be also really fun as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for all of your help and for listening to me. I hope you have a fabulous day, and I will speak to you soon. Bye. If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you for your support. It takes me hours to research and create this for you, so I genuinely hope you enjoyed it and felt more mentally strong. If you have any suggestions or improvements, let me know, because I'm always open for criticisms. If you have found my information useful, please leave a review and subscribe. So by leaving a review, it's a value exchange. It's good karma. I value your support just as much as you value my free information. So find me on Instagram and Facebook by searching Mentally Strong Mums, and I'm Aussie, so we're spelled MUM. And then you can find heaps of resources on www.mentallystrongmums.com. And this podcast is for you, so let me know what topics you would like to see covered in future episodes. And if yourself is a professional that is working with mums and would like to be a guest to help other mums be mentally strong, I would love to support you. So message me on Instagram on Mentally Strong Mums, MUMS, all one word. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, you beautiful mum.